Hello everybody, Lesson 6 Part 2. Lesson 6 Part 2, Rec 250 Online, Summer Session 1. Lesson 6 Part 2. So looking in your note packet, and we're talking about ethics and that invisible boundary that should surround every leader, and guiding and assisting leaders into making the correct choices, to be good role models for their groups, and overall to build trust between group and facilitator. Without trust, learning is damaged, long-term learning is damaged, and the effectiveness of your leadership is brought into question. We know that those leaders that didn't use trust, that used manipulation and various other terms, the very obvious leaders in history, weren't very good leaders at all on a moral basis. They were pretty persuasive in other ways. But that's not what this course is about. Looking on the ODA packet, your note packet here is page 22. So you've probably already seen this page because there was a question on your midterm about it. And this is 12 ways to develop facilitator group trust. Also, ethical facilitation, 12 ways to develop facilitator group trust, page 22. Okay, be a leader, number 1. And the reason it says be a leader is that you're not born a leader, you develop your leadership skills. A leader is a non-anxious, influencing presence of an individual within a community or within a group. Important thing is non-anxious, influencing presence. Many great leaders over the course of history have influenced folks simply by their presence, and all of the time it was a non-stressful, non-anxious, very peaceful influence. And being solid and actually having an authoritative leadership style it can be non-anxious. So let's not confuse that. Know that you can have a variety of leadership styles, whatever fits your personality, and have a non-anxious, influencing presence. Number 2 talks about the nonverbal communication. Good nonverbal facilitation is a key component in developing facilitator group trust. And so this is more when you're working with groups, running activities with them and things. And since this class is online, we didn't do any of the interactive activities. But you have complete circles and posture, remove your sunglasses, have good eye contact, verbal affirmation, good feedback. Nonverbal communication should be good, because believe me, people are looking at what you're doing and not necessarily what you're saying, especially in the beginning of your interaction with them, first few hours or so. They want to see how you stand. They're taking everything into consideration: how you stand, your demeanor, your mannerisms, how you interact. It's all extremely important. And now you don't have to go out of your way to be someone you're not. You've got to lead from a position of comfort. You've got to be comfortable in your own skin. Okay, but if you do any of these things just unconsciously, you may just always have your sunglasses on. You look like the Terminator up there, probably just with less muscles. You don't want to do that. Okay, so these are just some tips here. 3 is be present, be involved and attentive to your group. It takes energy. You've got to pay attention. Leaders listen, and they hear, and they read their group, and they read what's going on. So they have something to talk about, they have something to question, and they have something to interact and plan the program around. Because if you don't listen and you don't pay attention, you're not going to notice what's going on with your group. And believe me, your group knows when you are not being present and you are not listening. Absolutely, there's absolutely no way to fake it. You might think you can fake it, but that's not happening. Number 4 is be honest. I talked about that in the last lesson. Just know that you must be an honest leader, an honest facilitator. When you make a mistake, be accountable, own up to it. And you don't know everything. Leaders don't know everything. So there may be a position where you're just going to have to let somebody else know something. And those are usually know-it-alls anyway. Most people are okay with your leadership and okay with your mentoring. It's usually the know-it-alls that have self-esteem issues that will get in the way and challenge your knowledge on a subject, unless it's posing a threat or danger. But that's usually why you have a second leader with you in any kind of a program where you're working with a group. 5 is to be silent. And this is very interesting because what you want to do is you want to harness the power of silence. When you sit in a circle with a group or you're having a discussion with a group, at some point you're going to ask a question. And you want to ask a good, well thought out question. And then you want to wait. Be quiet and simply wait. If you do that, you'll find that most people are very uncomfortable sitting in silence. And yes, you want to have a non-anxious, influencing presence. There's nothing wrong with a little bit of people being uncomfortable while they're thinking about your question. You've got to give people enough time to respond. If anybody's been in a leadership position, they know that if they ask a question or say a statement, the looks on people's faces are really strange. Believe me, teaching and being in front of groups for over 15 years, I've seen a lot of strange looks on people's faces. And what it is, it's not that they're making those looks towards you, is they're actually thinking about what you're saying. People just make strange faces when they think. If you sit down in a mirror and try to think about something, you might notice yourself making a strange face. That's just how it is. So you don't want to be freaked out by that by any means. You just want to let the silence happen. Because once somebody's thought about your question, and there's a time to give a response. Most leaders they're nervous and they're quick. They'll ask a question. They'll give everybody 10 seconds to think about it, and then they'll move on. So even if somebody wanted to respond in a discussion session, may not have enough time because you're too busy moving things along. Sit back, use some silence, relax, and re-clarify the question again if you need to say something, but let there be some silence. And use and harness that power of silence. 6 is reinforce. Anytime in a discussion in leadership position, you always want to reinforce quality answers. Even if they disagree with you, they just must be quality answers, well thought out answers that are, good and interpersonal answers. Not answers that are said to make the group laugh in a negative way that kind of undermines you. No, none of that stuff. You know when you're being undermined. And there's usually always somebody in a group that likes to undermine the leader. Again, because they have self-concept and self-esteem issues. If you want to look past that, and when you get quality answers, whether you agree with them or not, because it's not about who agrees with what. It's not about that. It's about, okay, here's a good answer. This is productive. You reinforce it by saying, hey, thank you. Hey, that was a great response. Or, well, Susie's response was really good here. What does the rest of the group think? You really want to reward somebody stepping up and taking a risk, an emotional risk, to talk about themselves or to talk about the group that they're working with. Very important. Okay, 7 talks about role model. Just what this is if you don't want to be there and you don't care, it's going to show all over your face and all over your body language. You better fix that before you enter a leadership position. You need to be excited about being there, not overly excited. That makes people nervous. Okay, just you're there. You're clear. You're present. You've got enough focus and energy, and you just jump right into it, and you start fulfilling your role in your leadership position. And be excited about it. That way, if you're excited about it, they'll be excited about it. If you show that you care, they'll care. If you believe in the program, they'll believe in the program. But if you don't do any of those things, you just show up and you're just dragging your feet, that's exactly what they'll do. Okay? Because they'll follow your lead. 8 is be straightforward. Provide simple, clear, straightforward team building activities. Make your programming straightforward. Don't, unless it's in the context, just don't make things too difficult for people. Don't have games that have 17 different rules. It's hard enough working together with a bunch of strangers and a couple leaders, let alone having to follow 17 rules in an activity. Keep your program straightforward. Keep whatever you do with your group straightforward and simple and clear, and so you maximize the time on a personal level with them. You want personal time, discussion time, reflection time, question and answer time, good interpersonal interaction. That's what you want. You don't want people haggling over the rules and asking all these questions because activities are too difficult or practices are too confusing. Just make it simple. Make it simple so there's time left over so they can interact with you, because that's the most important aspect, interacting with you, building facilitator group trust. And when they build that trust, then they're more motivated, they're more interested in doing what you've planned for them, and then that's going to benefit them in the long run. And then they've truly experienced your leadership. 9, be respectful. Honor your participants' ideas and suggestions. We talked about that. I talked about that even if you don't agree with them. Okay. Again, you can disagree with all of somebody's behavior or their thoughts, but still respect them as a person because they're a person. Okay. 10, this is really important. Allow failure. This is the storming phase in group development that happens more than once. Is that storming phase where you fight and you make up, and you come to terms and figure things out, then you fight again. And you come to terms and you figure things out, then you fight again. And what I mean by fight is just a disagreement, not some physical brawl. And when you have a disagreement and the emotions, then you're starting to show your true colors. It's nothing wrong with being frustrated. It's actually not a feeling. It's just a stimulus. And then the frustration, anger, or sadness, or some of those other feelings can follow frustration, a frustrating event, frustrating circumstance. But after you've had the feelings, the emotions have gone, and everything's clear, you can work out reasonable solutions for things. Any of you that are married know that that's the case, or any of you that are with your parents, any long-term relationship, you've got to fight and make up, and fight and make up, and it's just part of the process. Well, that same thing happens on a larger level with a group. Now, where does allow failure come in? Well, what you want to do is, if the group is constantly succeeding, they're not having the opportunity to get mad at each other, to get frustrated with each other, to get disappointed, to rub shoulders. That's what we would call it. Iron sharpens iron. So you've got to rub the shoulders. You got to get in there and get a bit personal, in a healthy, productive way. Get a bit personal. And work out some of those issues the team has so they can get better. How can you set goals if you don't know what you need? And the only way you're going to know what you need in terms of what the team needs interpersonally is if you challenge them and push them. Now, every activity that you do probably isn't the best place to be pushed, but there's some activities or some things that you do with your group where you challenge them and you get them to get frustrated and allow failure. They don't have to succeed at every single activity or every single thing that they do. They do not have to succeed at that. There's no purpose in succeeding at everything that they do, because if that's all they do, they're not going to learn all that they could learn. Next is encourage. Make sure that you believe in your group and you encourage them to do their absolute best, and not over encourage them like a cheerleader. Okay, you want to respect people's personal space, but really believe in them, and that's going to translate into their learning. And lastly, as I talked about in Lesson 6, Part 1, is be accountable for your mistakes and for all of your actions. Do these things, follow these 12 ethical rules. Okay, facilitator group trust will be developed. It will increase, and you will see that your programs are extremely effective because their interaction with you is so good in your leadership position that they'll want to come back for more, and it's a very positive thing for them in terms of learning and growth.